Life's too short to drive boring cars. So the Lexus IS series of luxury sedans have been around for a while. 2014 seems to ring a bell for me. And the reason Lexus has been around for a while is because they've offered reliable, luxurious motoring with great appointments. Problem is, in recent years, SUVs have dominated the market. Sedans, sport coupes, and cars in general have slowly taken the back seat to SUVs, hybrids, and pure electric vehicles. And with all of this transition, one has to wonder if the brand new restyled 2021 Lexus IS350 has what it takes in its updates to remain competitive with the likes of the BMW 3 Series, Mercedes C-Class, and the Audi A4 and S4 Series cars. Let's get into it now. So I couldn't help but notice that this car is vastly improved. Subtle, small, cosmetic touches have certainly all rounded out to make a much cleaner looking car. So new to the IS is this ever expanded version of their infamous grille. Yes, it's getting bigger and even more bold, but now it's got a bit of a glossy finish and it just seems to strike the right balance. This car here has the nice black accents. We've got the high gloss piano black trim around there, as well as the extended air dams at the bottom here. I must say I love the new headlight, more improved over the older version. It's lower profile, and this accentuated LED just makes the entire headlight assembly pop. Down here, we've got more accents there to stand out. And down here, we've actually got some functional cooling ducts down in there that you actually don't even notice. It's very, very stealthy, but it plays an active role in the function of this car. And then we have this beautiful gunmetal gray aluminum wheel wrapped in 40 series sidewall and a 19-inch rim. And at the back, we have a 35 series sidewall as well on a 19-inch wheel. We've got this wonderful accents along the side. Down here, you've got, it cuts in here, almost gives it sort of a fender flare look at the front, accentuated by this rocker guard along the side, which is beautiful. And of course, this indentation that just flows until we hit this very, very aggressive line right there, accentuating the rear flares, which again, do pop a little bit. Now you'll notice the rear taillight assembly. It's been reworked a little bit, cleaner as well. Now you also have the rear light bar that goes all the way across. As I say, we have the IS350, so this is the 311 horsepower V6, and it's got all-wheel drive to boot. Then dropping down here, we have a wonderful set of dual exhaust tips, and this wonderful black high gloss diffuser on the back. And then we have this great little trunk lid fender right here to just give it that extra little pop at the back end. Gives it an extra sharpness and aggressiveness that some of the cars in its class just don't have. Now Lexus includes some of the chrome, not overly done. This car isn't blinged right out. I mean, a lot of the cars now do away with chrome altogether for the sake of that's 90s design theme, but however, they don't overdo it. There's a little bit there just to liven up the overall look of the car and bring a certain richness to the profile of this car. Then I can't help but notice these awesome mirrors. These are more or less evolved from the LC500. I definitely love this new design and new style that they've transitioned into the IS series. You'll see the F Sport logo there. This year there's no longer a differentiation between F Sport or standard 350. It's always 350 F Sport, no matter which model you get. So there should be no confusion there. Standard fare sunroof. So let's have a quick look at the interior. Here you have soft touch door handles, open up. And you'll find some great interior finishing here in the Lexus Standard. A good blend of plastic, high quality plastics, as well as some nice leather touches. What we have here is something very interesting, is we have an embossed leather panel here on the door. If you can see that, that is very, very nice and adds a little bit extra texture. And of course, high quality buttons that are guaranteed to last 300,000 miles. So in classic Lexus form, not a lot has changed on the interior here. There's a few key upgrades though I want to share with you, but overall the interior quality is just as good as it's ever been in a typical Lexus, which is almost as good as what you'll find in some of the German cars, albeit, you know, the BMWs and the Audis probably lead the pack in that regard. This car still has the quality feel to it. So the infotainment system's always been a little controversial in the Lexus cars. This has been lightly improved. Now it's a bit of a touchpad versus the old mouse pad. This does feel a little fragile, but it does seem to work a lot better. But there's actually a major improvement to the infotainment system. Check it out. Now there's actually been an enlarged 10.8-inch infotainment screen, which is also touch. And even though it's not as good as some of those from BMW and Audi, it is in fact vastly better than the last outgoing model. The car also has these wonderful heated and cooled seats all the way around. You'll notice the same situation in the back of the car. Some of the quality touches throughout here feel very, very nice, and you've got this contrast stitched look. This clock always resembles quality. It does have a very nice feel to it, and all of the buttons do have a nice quality feel to them. Now, what's nice with this car here, you've got paddle shifters, and down here you have your ASC. That's your sound control, so you can actually hear your engine more or less through the sound of the speakers. Now, there's a couple little great fun features that I love in this new IS series. Check it out. When you start the car, now you look down here, you get all this wonderful graphics appearing there. Looks very, very slick, and you get the same story over here on your infotainment screen. But here, now that's actually a mechanical gauge right there. It's actually not digital at all. Now, if you cycle this button right here, you get more digital display on the side, and the gauge moves right over. This is actually mechanical. That's actually a ring that slides back and forth. Hit it again, and it slides back into original position. Now, another thing I love about Lexus is, now even though some of the controls feel simple and easy to use, they're not cheap. And that's where some of the brands these days are just getting over complex. You have menu upon menu upon menu, where Lexus keeps things a little cleaner. For example, temperature controls right there. And when you cycle this actually changes as you slide the slider. It's actually a very nice, easy touch control, and it's actually very precise. It doesn't feel like a sticky, or you know how you get some of those low-grade second-rate cell phones from these third-party companies that, you know, sometimes you have to hit it a bunch of times for the electronics to work properly. No, this just works every single time. Why can't more brands get on board with simplicity of design, external buttons for every component rather than burying them within menus, and again, controls that just work like this? Whoa. Well, it's not exactly the most spacious back here, but I'd say it's pretty much in line with the current 3 Series BMWs. A little snug, but again, it works for a vehicle that's intended to be largely sporty and luxury, kind of blended and melded together. Now, simplicity is the game in this car. Not much going on here in the back seat, but you do have some basic heating vents, as well as 3 full seats, but the center, of course, does drop this down, and you can also land a couple of your Slurpees in there. So as far as I'm concerned, interior technology and quality is as good as you can expect, and it's definitely up there with the BMWs and the Audis of the world. And then even the exterior of this vehicle is definitely improved vastly over the outgoing model. And it's that bulging hood here that just makes it look menacing, especially you're looking back as another driver and this thing's bearing down on you. That hood just gives it that very powerful look. Makes it look like you have a twin turbo V12 wrapped under the hood there. All right, so driving along, the car feels very, very nice and well put together. It's quiet. It really does feel as enclosed and encapsulated as anything you would find some of the German brands would do as well. This thing's very, very well put together. You can tell it's very solid. And unfortunately, if there's an unfortunate side to the solidity, is the fact that if anything, it feels kind of heavy. This 3.5 liter V6 now is about 14 years old, and as such, it's starting to feel a little less refined. Of course, it doesn't have turbos. It is naturally aspirated, in some regards is nice, and it revs very high. It's got about a 6,800 RPM red line, so it certainly is willing to rev, but it doesn't feel like it's got the urgency as you dip into the throttle. And even with 311 horsepower, 14 years ago was great, and it was earth-shattering, but today, it's a little bit mild and average, to be honest. What I would say, in this really nasty chunk of road here that we have in our local area, it just beats the vehicles up pretty hard. But the car, the Lexus, this new IS feels like it's just bouncing and gliding over these. It doesn't feel like it's getting hammered by these rough stretches of road. So I would say it's very compliant and manages the garbage roads quite well. Now, apparently Lexus, as I say, spent a lot of time refining the handling to improve on the overall prowess in the corners. And definitely sounds the part, doesn't it? Oh yeah, well, I must say, the car sounds a little blasé at the low revs, but once you wind it out, it sounds like the hounds of hell trying to take a bite out of you. So it definitely has a high revving engine that is really, really nice to wind out. If not a little, albeit a little low on torque, when you're putzing around town, I find what it feels like it wants to downshift regularly. Now, because I'm in the all-wheel drive version, This is the only equipped with the 6-speed gearbox versus the 8-speed that comes in the rear-wheel drive. Now, the 6-speed with the all-wheel drive, a little extra drag, that could have something to do with the fact that this car doesn't feel as lively as maybe the rear-wheel drive version would. Plus, this car, I know, is riding on standard suspension. It doesn't have the adaptive suspension that you would get in the next level up. But overall, it's still a very compliant ride. It's nice to drive, it's pleasant, but yet it's got just enough pickup to giddy up and go. The only thing, as I say, downfall to this car is the fact that it actually seems to be lacking a little bit. You know, all of the other brands are still driving ahead, trying to be competitive. I mean, again, you look at the Giulia, you look at the BMW 3 Series and Audi S4, and they're all trying to step their game up in technology and performance. Some of them sure going with a Turbo 4, some of them Turbo 6s, but whatever it is, they're delivering more economy and better performance. Now, I gotta wonder for longevity. I think the ultimate question and the elephant in the room has to do with reliability, and I think that's why Lexus sticks with what they know. We've got the V6, 3.5 liters here, old news, nothing special, but it still works well. It's strong enough to keep things entertaining and light, and the fact of the matter is, you know it's gonna run for 500,000 miles, guaranteed, no questions asked. To be quite frank, there's just something to be desired with that. Now, soon to be revealed, of course, their discussion about the V8 powered IS. Now, I do believe that they kept this car limited to 311 horsepower to improve that gap, because when the V8 comes out, likely it'll be equipped with the 5 liter. It'll probably have around 470 horsepower as you're getting the current generation LC500 and all the other cars that use that engine. So I would expect it to be equipped with a powerful engine, and at that point it will be very much competitive with the likes of the new generation M3. Now, unfortunately, it's likely to be rear-wheel drive only, which is the only downfall. Now, currently the BMW M3 and M4 will come with a switchable all-wheel drive as an option, so there's still something to be said about the BMWs as an option there. As a matter of fact, I think they still deliver the goods. Now, with that said, if you're trying to blend performance with a strong touch of reliability, I think still Lexus has knocked it out of the park. This new design, I think they've blasted it out of the park. I love the new looks of this car and some of the new technology. I showed you some of the displays, a little bit gadgety, but it works, and some of the controls are wonderful. Again, the engine's a little bit old school, but it's working and it's great. So honestly, from my perspective, and if you've seen Doug DeMuro's video, hats off. He has a great perspective, and in a lot of ways I agree what he's saying, in that Lexus is just not all that competitive anymore. But that's probably why they're not trying to be competitive. They're tuning things up, because this car isn't so much a redesign as it is slight refresh. Yes, they've dialed in a few things, they've updated a few things, but ultimately they've kept it clean and simple for the sake of reliability. And just in case you want to learn a little bit more about one of its key rivals, the BMW 330, check this video. You're going to love it. It's going to explain the whole video. Great review. Hope to see you guys real soon. Catch you then. Bye-bye.